I've got a little surprise for you towards the end of this video, so hang in there. Yeah, sun's just come out for a while, so I thought I'd take you down and I'll just show you what's been going on. We're making progress. Now this one's milk, this one's eggs, this one over here is lard. As you can see that the eggs one is the best one at the moment. You can see the dandelion is dying back, and we're about halfway through May at the moment. It still hasn't greened up. None of these have greened up. You can see there's yellowing on the leaves there. So yeah, the potato one actually collapsed, totally collapsed a day or so after, and yeah, so that was bad. I tried some wood chips. That was bad as well, as you can probably see. Not the best. However, persistent, as I say, persistence pays off. So if the sun will stay out, going back to normal area. You got to go through a lot of failure to get success, and so I did some more experiments over here. That is what kind. Will the sun come out? It might come out soon. Yeah, it might. I don't know. Got some more clouds coming in there, so I think we missed an opportunity there. So anyway, so I've got them sort of growing in a flooded situation. We've got a dandelion there. Then I tried copper, which isn't good. So yeah, I tried copper, which isn't good, just to test it out. Then I tried nickel, which is not as bad, yeah, because nickel, you know, you got from serpentine area sort of thing. And then I tried this one, which is stronger than that one over there, and it seems to be all right. However, then I thought back, why don't I try charcoal? Because you go from peat to lignite to coal. And I'm thinking, yeah, why don't I try charcoal? So I tried charcoal, and I think I might say bingo. Yeah. If the sun would come out, they look really nice in the sun. So yeah, you've got to have this, because you know when you first put the charcoal in, it takes a long time for the charcoal to absorb the moisture. And yeah, so and slowly as it absorbs the moisture, you've got to top it up, of course, unless it gets rained on, of course. And yeah, I put that one in there, and I've got a dandelion in there, but you know, if the sun came out, and I've got a ox tongue there, so you know, but they look absolutely gorgeous in the sun. Might be good for the cold countries, because the charcoal is probably going to get quite warm. I don't know if it's any good for us in the summer, because you know we get 46 in the shade, and it's going to get really hot. But it's flooded, so it might cool itself off. But I'm sure it's going to burn some leaves in summer. You know, the humidity coming off there will be very hot, I reckon, with 46 degrees in the shade. So I think that's 46 degrees Celsius in the shade. So you might want to convert that to Fahrenheit, you Americanos. And yeah. Oh well, just a thought. You might want to play around with some coal. I've tried coal in the past, but now I might try it again. Now I've learned how to grow things in a flooded situation. How to grow things, you know, in a flooded bucket without them rotting off, sort of thing. So yeah, I've got my old experiments over there. I mean, it was on the way. It was on the journey to getting where we are. So hopefully we're out of peat now. We can probably I'll be trialling charcoal, I suppose, to a certain extent. It's cheaper than peat, but it's still pricey in a way. So I might want to try going back to the the prilled beanbag polystyrene. That will also absorb water, but very slowly. It takes a while for them to, you know, saturate all the interstices in the polystyrene foam. So again, you probably have to weigh it down with a brick. While that occurs, it'll probably take a few weeks to actually, you know, equilibrate, sort of thing, to you know, get the moisture all the way through. And then from then you hopefully it wouldn't flood. But then again, you get rained on. So yeah, I'm just wondering whether you could actually grow them on beanbag. Now we've learned how to grow things flooded, whether you can grow them on beanbags, prills, you know, sort of like look at the aromatic part of peat, sort of thing, rather than the inorganic. Because, you know, charcoal being, you know, supposedly carbon, you know, it's, you know, do you class it as inorganic or organic? I mean, most people class it as inorganic, but, you know, you can see, you know, the carbon, the master element of life. But the big eye-opening one was urea, because H0, the worst case scenario, the plants were going to die. H1, the best case scenario, plants were going to be affected and grow to some extent. And neither of those scenarios panned out. The plants didn't die, the plants didn't grow, they basically did bugger all. And I'm thinking, well, this is nitrogen, the master key element of all plant growth. That all the books I read, all the books say that sort of thing. You know? Nitrogen is the master key element of all plant growth. And there I have a flooded bucket. I've got urea in there in quite large amounts, and it's doing absolutely nothing. It's not killing the plants. You think like it will turn to ammonia and kill the plants, but you'd be able to smell that. You'd be able to test it with your pH kit, because it would go ultra alkaline. None of that happened, yet the plants didn't grow. Some of the leaves sort of greened up a bit, but they weren't growing, you know what I mean? There was no growth. Yeah, because I remember my old lecturer at uni saying, you know, what's the difference between, you know, plant growth and development, sort of thing, you know, posing the question, what is growth in growth and development, sort of thing, you know? Can you distinguish them? Can you sort them out from one another, sort of thing? I don't know if he actually knew the answer or not. I think he just posed it as a question. It was like a rhetorical sort of question, you know. So, yeah, anyway. Yeah, I did nickel because, you know, there's so much serpentine in WA. So it's patchy serpentine, but if you look on the map, you know, there's a vast mass, one of the largest, as opposed to South Africa. It's probably the second largest area in the world, isn't it? I think, compared to, I think South Africa's got the largest craton, or is it craton of serpentine, that sort of thing, or cratonic serpentine, I think. I have to read my book again, get the details out, but yeah, anyway, so, you know, that was an eye-opening thing. So, well, if take a few steps back, if nitrogen is not the master key element of these sort of plants, what's actually going on, you know? And lo and behold, it's allowed us to test things out and get into charcoal, which is our sort of idea that that's where peat ends up heading. It goes from peat to lignite to coal, basically. And of course, coal was the substance where they commodity where they found cobalt for the first time. Yeah, cobalt, you know, spelt cobalt, but pronounced cobalt, of course. I suppose you've got a bolt with an arrow, you've got balls and things like for shot and things like that. I suppose it's the metal found in coal, I suppose, if you translate it that way. I don't know if that's strictly true, but the bolt of coal, cobalt, spelt cobalt, yeah. I know, it's vagaries of the English language, you know. Like you go up in pitch when it's a full vowel sound, and you go down when it's a short vowel sound, you know, like holy moly, holly molly, holy moly, holy moly, you know, sort of, you know, yeah goes down because it's an sound, it's a short vowel sound, so, you know. Yeah. Anyway, in the early morning, the early night sort of thing, yeah. So yeah, you can practice with all those vowel sounds. Go to all the, you know, the I's and the O's and the E's and the U's, and you go all those funny words like vacuum and things like that, and you go through all the Greek ones, telly, Philly, and you know, yeah, you can have some good fun, you know. The short vowel sounds, sounds like in hand, you know, when you know, hand, you know. So in other words, instead of the vowel sound going down, if you hold it where it actually is, you can have effects. And the other way around, if you have a, you know, you can play around with it. If it's supposed to go up, you can play around with it as well. So anyway, I digress. You might want to have some fun with vowel sounds, you know, in the English language sort of thing, and so-called non sort of, you know, intermediate ones, which are, you know, unstressed vowel sounds, things like that. So they're sort of like extra vowel sounds in the language that you don't really notice or realise that they're a kind of a vowel sound. You can play around whether they're short and long and how they. Yeah, I'm musically trained basically by Barry Gray. All his music works on the seventh tritone pensem sort of situation. If you've noticed, all his music is basically based around that, you know. Yeah, so you might want to see how that relates to Mozart, you know, because Bach, of course, he reckoned it was all to do with the bass, of course, but then again, bass isn't simple, you know, with words and things like that. You know, bass can get pretty complicated. You know, you got, you know, especially when you start playing around with verbiage of words and things like that, you know, like the word no is not, you know, it's a chord basically, and you know, the bass note is not, of that chord is not, you know, a strict note. It's a combination of two notes basically, so it sort of straddles midway, you know. So the whole load of music, all that stuff from monks in monasteries. Quite a lot of books. It wasn't the great composers writing the music books. It was monks in monasteries and people after them sort of thing. You know, it would be nice to have a book written by Mozart, but you know, he's working so hard, we didn't have enough time. We did have a treatise or thesis by Michelangelo. He told us what he did and everything like that, so we know a lot more about his life and his works and how he did things because he actually wrote one. Most people don't realise that Michelangelo, you know, when are you going to ever finish? Well, he certainly wrote a treatise about what he did, so you can learn all about all his techniques and things like that, how he did do the statue of David. It was already in the block of marble. Yeah, I know. Anyway, so it looks like we finally got to the end of the journey, I think, you know. I'll see if I can actually grow things in polystyrene or something like that, you know, in a flooded bucket of polystyrene, if I can weight it down long enough for it to, you know, absorb the moisture and get heavy enough not to float away or something like that. But maybe I should just try straight perlite. How about that? I mean, perlite's pretty expensive, I know, but maybe I should try that. I don't know. What do you think, fellas? Go and get some expensive perlite and see if I can do a flooded bucket of perlite and see if I can grow these plants just like this on that as well. Yeah, it makes you wonder, would they all go red or something like that? When they all start producing red roots and red centres and things like that. So yeah, I do like my CP related weeds. You know, they show us where we're going, and hopefully we'll get to, you never know, I might end up with a long cascading streaming garden bog of charcoal sort of thing, you know, flooded, but you know, it goes down like a hillside on the property or something, you know, a shallow graded, you know, expanse sort of running like a river, a black river of charcoal, and grow some Darlingtonia down it or something like that. I don't know, but it's just some ideas. I'm probably too old to do it now, but anyway, but at least we're getting to we've basically got to the end of the journey. You get some CP-related weeds growing in flooded charcoal. But what I want to do is see if I can put some Glade seed down on here. See if they germinate. That would be interesting if the Glade seed germinate and can grow on this flooded charcoal bucket. It would be quite interesting. So, yeah, be interesting. So, anyway, we'll see how it goes. But I was very impressed by the way the dandelion took to it. But unfortunately, the sun hasn't come out. I really need a torch. But you look at the centre of the bud in there, and it looks quite healthy. Responded impressively, put it that way. So anyway, I said you could get round copper, but it took a lot of work, you know. I have got round copper in the past, but I think nickel is better. And see, that's the trouble with Australia. We have these big expanse of patchy serpentine, you know, high in all these serpentine minerals, and we've also got the largest copper mine that ever existed on the planet. So basically all that Victorian copper for bell wire and things like that came from Australia, basically, because we've had the largest mine that's ever existed on the planet. And that basically ran the copper industry of the Victorian age, basically, and all the basic, you know, early electrics, you know, into bell wire, into making, you know, telephones ring, and, you know, small electromagnets, and into the telegraph, and all that copper ran from basically the Australian mine here in southern, well, Abbotland as we call it now, you know. Formerly Australia, yeah, Abbotland. Tony Abbott, former Prime Minister, failed priest, aka Dr. No, and we had 10 years of no, and then we had another 3 years of inactivity, thanks to Bob Brown being released from the basement and going up to Queensland, shouting his mouth off, just right before an election. So we had to have an extra 3 years of inactivity in this country, but it's all go now, I think. Oh, have you heard about what's happened over in Europe? Oh, yeah. I think OKTOBERFEST is going to be off because the Germans have this purity rule that beer can only be made with 4 ingredients, none of which are depleted uranium. So I don't know if you've heard this, but whatever his name, Sunak, the Prime Minister of Great Britain, authorised sending depleted uranium shells over to Ukraine. Of course, they just put them in a dump somewhere. They didn't do anything special to them. And of course, the Russians were just blowing up all these ammunition dumps, and they happened to hit the one that contained this depleted uranium. There was these massive explosions, absolutely massive explosions you see on the video, where there was some sort of, you know, nuclear reaction going on there. I don't know, but you know, they say if you smash things together hard enough, they can go subcritical sort of thing, or critical, as I think I should say. And yeah, so then that's starting to contaminate the so-called breadbasket of Europe. So, you know, I don't think the Germans will want contaminated wheat and barley for their beer and their breads. And what about the French? You know, they're rioting at the moment every weekend. Wait till they find out they can't have croissants in the morning. They'll probably invent the MACRON. Yeah, they'll go from having the radioactive croissant, they'll call it the MACRON. The MACRON. Yeah, anyway, so... oh, well, that's about it for this one. I've probably gone over 20 minutes now on this one, but I thought and the sun's gone in, and yeah, we're mid-May now, so we're basically, you know, right at the cusp of the true wet, and it only lasts about 12 weeks, basically, the true wet, to like the 3rd week of August, and then we rapidly get to from the 3rd week of August into the 3rd week of October, and that's the end of the extended sort of wet. But the true wet is now from, you know, the 21st of May basically to the 3rd week of August, and then we have I don't know, you call it a spring, I don't know where you go from the 3rd week of August to the 3rd week of October, and then it's straight into summer weather usually, and rapidly approaching 46 degrees in the shade sort of days, or something. But we'll see how we go from there. But anyway, whereas in WA the season's a lot longer. It starts like mid-March and goes all the way up to about the very beginning of December 1 sort of thing, when Canton Swamp dries out totally sort of thing. But you know, Tannican Swamp is flooded for months sort of thing. As you said, we got Drosera gigantea there, grows that sort of on the flooded edge sort of thing. Between, you can walk out to a small stand of Drosera gigantea, and they used to grow up to my 10-year-old nipple height sort of thing, and